And energy. I mean,
Oh,
the
the
energy was just
energy.
incredible.
And one of the reasons, by the way, that David and I wanted to do this interview is because it's so important. We agree that it's so important to archive this amazing, amazing time in history.
Yes, it was like a magical bubble, kind of like Glinda, the Good Witch of the North, lived in.
Yes.
But London was that bubble. Do you remember that Time magazine came out with an issue and said "Swinging London," and it was the cover story.
It was.
And we were right there.
I
And
know.
It was so lucky.
We were so lucky. I can't remember exactly, but I think it was April 65. I don't remember exactly, but it was at roughly that time. And yeah, I mean, for Time magazine to come down and say, this is the in place in the world, London, Chelsea, London. And yes, we were there. And so I and David, we both agreed that this needed to be archived.
Yes, yeah, because it's a moment that won't ever exist again, because fashion is a response. It's a reaction to the society, and society then was exploding. I mean, we were ready for the youthquake,
Yes.
as it became known.
Yes.
And the whole world was changing, and the hunger for fashion and newness. I mean,
Yes.
whenever I talk to young people today, I try to explain that in those days we were seeing clothes that hadn't existed before, whereas now poor young people are just seeing rehashes of the 1970s or the 1980s.
Yes, that's true.
And newness was absolutely required. If it was something old, we didn't want it at all.
No, and it was a time of incredible self-expression in London. I mean, it was the time of the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, in America, the Beach Boys. Everybody was expressing a message. And in terms of fashion on the King's Road, everybody had something to say. I mean, it was, some of it was outrageous. And one of the things that just occurred to me about Chelsea and the King's Road in particular is how egalitarian it was. I mean, if you were creative, if you had a message, you were part of the Chelsea set. I mean, there was Mick Jagger, there was,
Angelica Houston.
Oh, yes.
Remember? And Xander Rhodes. And I remember, the first party you gave that I went to in London. There I was, a young man from Ohio, and here at a party in Chelsea. And I remember meeting Xander Rhodes and her business partner of the time, Vanessa Redgrave. Do you remember?
Oh.
They opened a fashion boutique in Chelsea, and it was called, in Fulham Road, the Fulham Road Clothes Shop. And Christine Keeler, the shocking call girl of the political scandal, was also one of your guests.
Yes.
So it was an incredible mix of all kinds of people and different kind of accents too. I mean, suddenly the working class and the lower class in England became powerful in the same way that music was.
Absolutely.
It was the beginning of what we came to call street style.
Yes, it really was. And that's what I meant by, if you had a message, Mick Jagger had a message. He was a Cockney, a lower...
Well, and you had a message. I remember the first time I met you, you had green feathers braided into your hair and painted on freckles.
Oh, yes.
And I just thought, this woman is crazy. I'm crazy about her.
Oh, I loved my freckles. I was just talking about maybe having some tattooed over my nose, but it sounds painful. But anyway, yes, I mean, it's hard to imagine the 60s. It was a revolution. I know everybody says that, but it was truly a cultural revolution. It was a revolution in music and art and fashion, and we've talked about this. It was really London that was in this revolution.
Yes, London was ahead of Paris.
Yes.
Milan hadn't even begun to be a fashion center yet. And New York, and even slower was LA. Yeah, so London was the nerve center, the birth of it all.
It was. And I've always thought that New York and Paris, London, Paris, and New York, or America, expressed fashion in three very different ways. I mean, London was always creative. It was grassroots. It was down and dirty. It was, you know, like whatever you were feeling, you do it, you express it, you create it. And as a result, it was very creative, but not necessarily slick. Paris fashion was refined and beautiful and well tailored and, you know, magnificent in that way, but not creative the way London was. And of course, America at that time, yes, I have to admit the same thing, was sort of back in the 50s in a way.
Well, America was still copying Paris, which was behind London.
Yes.
So then we helped wake America up and to focus on London as the epicenter.
Yes.
But we weren't the only people who understood what was going on. I mean, we suddenly had competition for the little IM report that we did, and there were lots of people reporting what was going on. So we had to figure out a way to be a heartbeat ahead, and this is where your particular genius came into play.